Underwriting deals is such a major pain point for people. Most don't want to do it, and the people that are good at it are few and far between. That is why after 6 years of being in the industry and buying over 1,200 apartments, using my best-selling multifamily deal analyzer, I created Real Estate Lab, a full suite acquisition software for multifamily investors. We have built a product that helps investors automate their acquisitions and close more deals, all in a cloud-based platform. You can go to realestatelab.com and sign up today using the promo code TAG2 for 10% off your first 12 months. This is David Tupin. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to The Apartment Gurus, where twice a week, host Tate Siemer brings you deep dive interviews with the wisest gurus in the apartment investing industry. These experts are sure to create game-changing value and inspiration designed to catapult your business to the next level. Be sure to reach out to Tate at www.investwithgreenlight.com for access to his investor portal and Calendly link. And now, here is Tate Siemer and the Apartment Gurus.
Welcome, everybody, back. Another episode of the Apartment Gurus coming at you right now, and have a buddy of mine on the show, Mr. Jeffrey Holst. Really excited to have Jeff. Jeff has gone from riches to rags and back again, and he currently owns over 300 residential units and multiple commercial properties as well. In February of 2020, Jeff climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and stood at the highest point in Africa, which is amazing. He's the co-host and founder of the Last Life Ever podcast, and he's passionate about helping people live the best possible versions of their lives. He's also co-host of the Old Fashioned Real Estate Show, where the hosts drink old fashions, bourbon old fashions, and talk about real estate investing. I love that. And Jeff, you're also a coach.
I am, yeah.
I just know that from knowing you and talking to you in the past. And so you coach, I believe you coach students. Do you coach one-on-one, or is it a group coach?
It's all one-on-one. And it's just, I'm very selective. That's why I don't usually put it in my bio or talk about it. You know, it's just like if somebody approaches me about it and I feel like it's a good fit, I have something to offer them, and I like whatever they're working on, and I like them, then we work out a deal to work together one-on-one for however long it takes to fix that problem.
I love it. Yeah. And, you know, note to the listeners, Jeff and I actually have the same performance life business coach that we work with. His name's Jamil Syed. Shout out to him. I know he's made a huge difference in your world and mine as well. And
yeah, Jamil's the reason I'm where I'm at now, for sure. I mean, you know this, but the listeners probably don't. I'm literally sitting on the balcony in Puerto Rico right now. I turn the computer around, but then we'd never find each other back. So, but I mean, I'm looking out over this like turquoise blue ocean, and I really believe it's all because Jamil challenged me to accelerate my goals. I wanted to be in the Caribbean in 5 years. Did it in like 9 months of working with him. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's just unreal how great he is.
Yeah. Well, and the power of coaching is really it's priceless. Like it's hard to quantify really, because a very good coach is going to elevate all of the aspects of your life and is going to bring you along in your physical health, your psychological health, your business, the health of your business, the vitality of your recreational activities. Jeff, I know you love to play. You love to get out and see the world. You were in Antarctica last year. I remember following you on social media when you were in Antarctica. You climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I mean, these are all things that, like, this is what makes life rich and wonderful to be a part of.
Actually, this year has been great for me. I've been to Antarctica, South America, Europe, and Africa all this year. So, and North America, of course, is, I'm there now. But I mean, that's like half the world, right? And since January, it's insane, actually.
Yeah. It's amazing. So, Before we leave the realm of coaching, because I want to hear a little bit more about your story. You know, when you say that, and I could say similar statements, I guess, about coaching with Jamil and what that's meant to me. I can really point to the quality of some of my immediate relationships, family, brother, father, those sorts of relationships, which are obviously the most important, really, to all of us, the people that we love. What would you if you could like kind of put an ingredients list together for like the magic potion that he sort of creates for us? Could you do that? I know that's kind of
I think it's tough, because it's one-on-one with him, it's going to be different for everyone. But yeah, but I really think the hard substance behind what he's doing is he's forcing you to evaluate what's important to yourself and then helping you lean into that. And he does that from a place of like nearly pure love. Like he really wants you to succeed, believes it. And then he helps you figure out what it is you want and then points you in that direction. And it turns out, like, if you're going after things that are important to you and you recognize how important they are and you lean into that and you make that your identity, it becomes really easy to do those things, right? Yeah. Like if you hate real estate, you probably shouldn't be investing in real estate. Let's be honest. Like, you got to enjoy it or you're not going to be good at it. And it's not about, that there's that old adage, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. It's not like that. Right. That's not really true. But what is true is it's a lot easier to show up if you're doing things that are important to you. Yeah. And if you're really clear on what the end goal is, if you're investing in real estate just to make a pile of money, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, right? But if you're investing in real estate because you see at the end of the day that you're going to have a lot of freedom to do the things that are important to you, like in my case, travel, but it could be spend time with your kids. It could be, volunteer. It doesn't really matter what it is, right? That you're really, really working towards. If you're using it as a vehicle towards that, it's a lot easier to pursue it. So, right. And, just to rewind a second, like what you said about Jamil coming from a place of love, like in a lot of business people's minds, that might sound kind of woo woo or kind of like, it sounded that way to me, actually, when I realized it at first. Yeah. And I think deep down in all of our hearts, hopefully we all believe ultimately in the power of love and how it can transform somebody that you invest that love in and that's coachable, right? That's willing to listen, willing to accept the love and the coaching, and sometimes the hard coaching, sometimes the encouragement. And so, the student has to be ready for sure. But when the student is ready and coordinates and collaborates with somebody like Jamil, who's really coming from that space, it can be really, really magical. And the investment of time and money that you make in these relationships, it's minuscule when you look at doing multi-million-dollar deals and getting six-figure acquisition fees and all that stuff. Yeah. And I literally, like, when I first hired Jamil, I was like, I can't believe I'm spending this much money to talk to somebody. This feels really weird. I never had a coach before, so I can't really say what, other coaches are like, but something about him resonated with me. I think we were presenting on a panel at the same time. And so I got a chance to meet. It was an online panel, but we had a chance to sort of talk offline afterwards. And it just, I just went, I'm going to try this. And I've never regretted it at all. In fact, I've rehired him, twice now. Yep. And I don't know that I'm ever going to unhire him, because I know, it's right? Like, I just feel like, and the weirdest thing is sometimes I don't even know what we're working on almost. And then I come out of the meeting and go, oh my God, that was amazing. Like, I've just learned so much about myself. And I really do think that's actually why I was saying that, at the beginning of the show here, that for my own coaching, I try to do it one-on-one, and I only do work with people I really like, because it's very, very much, I have to be able to lean into their success, maybe even more than what they do. And I think that's the magic of Jamil, right? Like he wants you to succeed so badly that he's completely vested in it. He's completely on your side. Yeah, I know. And it's a special, he's a special guy. It's a special relationship.
And one of the reasons there are great reasons why people say having a mentor, having a coach when you're starting out in commercial multifamily, which is what we're here to talk about, is so key. And they're able to accelerate that curve and smooth out the curve as well, because they're going to keep you out of pitfalls that might really trip you up in a deal. And
right.
Yeah, and
that's actually a really good point, Tate. Like it's not just you need one coach, really, right? Like Jamil's really, really good, but he's not a multifamily coach. That's not what he does. He's a life transformation guy. He's about putting your life holistically together in a really good place. But you talk to someone like you or someone like me. If you want to make the transition from single family to multifamily, that if you need somebody like that's there and has done that, or if you want to just get started investing in real estate, you need someone who's done that can help you avoid those pitfalls. I mean, the mistakes that I'm assuming this is true for you too, but the mistakes I made when I first started set me back years.
Yeah. Because
those early mistakes are the ones that slow you down so much.
Right.
And one of the biggest mistakes I made was just not starting on time. Like I was reading books and listening to podcasts and thinking about real estate and buying courses and all this stuff. But I mean, I just wasn't doing anything, right? I was just learning for years, like 10 years of that. If I just bought a house, 10 years earlier, then I would be where I am now 10 years sooner. And that's an unbelievable difference in life.
Yeah. Yeah. And those, those mistakes, imagine if you could go back, Jeff, and we've made them too, some painful mistakes, but imagine if you could go back and instead of absorbing the cost of the mistakes, which can be like six figures easy, how about absorbing the cost of, a $17,000, $18,000, $30,000 coach, or coaching community or mastermind or something that would keep you on the straight and narrow, so to speak, and keep you away from those really costly mistakes that a lot of times can shut a business down. Like sometimes it's a matter of whether or not you're doing the business or not. And if you can, invest in that paid mentor, and I'll just throw out there that I think it's super important that you develop a paid coaching, paid mentorship relationship, because those are the ones that really produce. They're the ones where ideally you're guaranteed that your coach is 100% in the boat with you and that you're in it together, right? Right. I always get the feeling from Jamil, like he's in it with me when I have a victory, dude. Sometimes he's in tears. I'm sure you've experienced that too. Yeah.
Or if you have setbacks too, he feels that 100% with you. And the only thing I would say is I agree you need paid people in your life to do this stuff, good coaches, people with experience, people that are on your team. But be a little careful too, because there are a lot of programs out there that aren't awesome either, right? So, be selective. If you're getting ready to hand someone $30,000 or something, it's one thing if it's a one-on-one relationship and you like that person, but a lot of these higher end mentorships, they're group coaching, Zoom calls once in a while as a group, and they're trying to sell you into their program, and that can be good. You can meet great people in those things. Right. Just be selective, because if you get into the wrong group and you throw $30,000 or $50,000 or $100,000 away in coaching fees over a few years, and you don't get anything out of it, that's even worse, right? That's one of those costly mistakes you want to avoid. So you got to be selective, but you definitely need to develop a relationship with someone, and probably more than one, really.
Yeah, exactly. And that to me is we won't go down this road too very far, but the power of masterminds, right? Like you can have that one primary coach, maybe you have a life coach and then you have a multifamily coach, but being in a mastermind where there's 20 or 100 or 200 colleagues, basically people doing the same thing as you, people at different levels, that's invaluable too. And really, like, you and I work with a lot of people that are starting out in this space, Jeff, and for me, like the emphasis is really on like, this is a multi-pronged attack, right? Like you're not just doing one thing or two things. You're not just putting your capital raising machine together or your broker relations game together. You're doing all of the things that it takes to get that ship off out of port, so to speak. And get, or a better analogy is probably getting the plane off the ground, because it's that initial push that consumes so much fuel in a plane. And it's the initial push in the commercial real estate space that really takes everything you got. That first deal that,
I actually think it might be like a rocket ship, right? Like it's like 90% of the effort is getting the thing going. Once it's going, it's just little adjustments here and there.
Yeah.
Planes, they're burning fuel constantly, but rocket ships, you can get to a point where you're in orbit and you're really not burning fuel.
Yeah.
You just kind of coast around and you just keep doing better and better and cooler and more fun things.
Yeah.
Without putting that much effort in it, just little adjustments here and there. So, but I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, it's not one thing, right? It's everything. In your plane or rocket ship analogy, if your engines are great, but you don't have fuel, you don't go anywhere. If you have plenty of fuel, but you don't have a heat shield, you explode on before you get there.
That's right. That's right.
You need all of it. You need the underwriting, you need the capital, you need the investor relationships, the broker relationships. I mean, the contractors. There's so much that you need to put together, and there's no reason to try to do it all from scratch on your own. Like no one builds a rocket by themselves. There's no reason to, like if someone's already doing what you're doing, you should go find that person and learn from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a mastermind. You can learn from, like you said, 50, 100 different people. I literally just jumped into a new mastermind. I mean, it hasn't even started yet, so I can't say how good it's going to be, but I'm optimistic about it. Throw $25,000 into a group of 10 people to, really, really have some one-on-one time with that coach, but also, the 10 people that are in that group with me are going to be amazing. I know they are because they're hand-selected. It's a small group. You're going to meet great people that way.
Yeah. And those things are so powerful. And you either catch inspiration from other people, you catch ideas from other people. Sometimes you catch partnerships with other people and or investors or, there's just.
All that stuff. Yeah. And I've gotten all those things from those types of groups. And honestly, some of that you can get a lot cheaper than even joining the group, right? Like a lot of these groups have like events that are sort of public events, and then they have their private events, and you can go try it out. You can go hang out at their event and see, the quality of the people that are in the mastermind before you even join the mastermind.
Yeah.
You can spend the weekend with them,
Yeah.
And that's true of almost all the big masterminds, that there are options to go to their events as a guest, or to, go to a conference that they're doing that their mastermind students are going to be there, and you can meet them and learn from them. And I've learned so much even just going to events of groups that I haven't even joined, right? I've met great people that way. In fact, I think that's how we connected originally.
Yep. Yeah. And, the story of Chelsea Garber, our third partner at Greenlight, we met at a conference, and those national conferences to me are kind of like a mini mastermind on steroids, because instead of 20 people or 200 people, you've got maybe 4, 5, 800 people, and you've got speakers and lots of people that many, many more people that you don't know, and the opportunity to meet all those people. And they're just game changers.
It's unbelievable. I used to be a poo-poo coaches and conferences and all that. When I started doing it, I was like, wow, that was the biggest mistake ever. My partner in Last Life Ever, my one podcast you mentioned at the beginning, I met her. She was a speaker at a conference. That's how I met her. She's an amazing securities attorney. She's Grant Cardone's attorney, all that stuff, right? And now I'm friends with her, right? She moved her family to Puerto Rico. Jillian Sidoti's her name, right? So,
I know Jillian.
Yeah, and that's amazing, right? To be able to build that relationship. But I mean, I've met people that were, that weren't in any way famous. They weren't speakers that have changed my life at events. I've met people that later did things that were amazing, and because I knew them so long, I was brought along on stuff that they were doing that they wouldn't bring the other people along on. And it's unbelievable. And I'm a big fan of going to at least 1 or 2 conferences every year. I try to go to one every quarter if I can. In real estate. I try to mix up which ones I go to. And then I even try to throw in some other ones. I do a podcasting one once in a while, or, a coaching one once in a while, or a social media one once in a while, stuff like that, because you just don't know who you're going to meet, what you're going to learn. And I remember I was at a real estate conference once, and I heard about cost segregation and bonus depreciation. And within a month of that, I've never paid any federal income tax since. Yes, I paid like $1,500 to go to a conference, but it's literally saved me hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, that's so powerful. It's unreal. Yeah. It is. It's like, the power of ideas at the right time, when you're fertile and ready for them. And, if you go into these conferences, quick tip to listeners, go into these conferences ready to provide value, connect and really build long game relationships with people. And the best way to do that is to get in their world, right? Get related to them in a powerful way, find out what they're about, friends, occupation, recreational, and the D, I forget the D. I can't remember what the D is in Ford, but I'll think of it in a minute. But think about that. Think about what it is that they do with their time. I love the question, what do you do for fun? You say you're from Northern Michigan. What do you do for fun up there? I hear there's good skiing or snowmobiling or whatever. And learn about them and build those relationships from a organic place of how can I help you? And amongst other things, that communicates to people that you have some confidence, that you do have some resources, that you have the ability to do business, right? That's what doing business is all about.
Well, and I think the one mistake some people make when they go to conferences, they try to meet everybody. That's not the goal, right? The goal is to come out with 2 or 3 really strong connections, people that are going to be on your team forever. Right. You made really good friends with them, and you're going to help them, and they're going to help you. And you don't even know when it's going to be. I mean, you may never get any absolute, measurable, tangible value from that relationship, but you get just positivity, or it just makes you, and it puts you in a better mindset. Yeah. And you just never know when it could be 10 years from now, that person calls you up and says, "Hey, I've got this deal you got to take a look at," or they might run into some new strategy and just be excited to tell you about it. You just never know, right? And that stuff can change you. I mean, you always see these people that come and they have a huge stack of business cards and they're trying to get everyone's card and they just want to get you on their mailing list. Okay, I mean, I'm sure that works on some level, but that's never been my goal. If I go to a conference, I want to meet, maybe it's a half a dozen people, but it's not hundreds of people, right? That's not the goal. Right.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think the same could be true of the speaker content. If you go in trying to I'm going to get all of this and I'm going to take all these notes, that's great. And you can do that. You can attack it that way. But, if you go in with the goal of if I get 1 to 3 game-changing ideas out of this, and maybe not even game-changing, maybe just really enhancing or something that kind of moves the needle.
That makes you get something that teaches you how to save 0.5% on a line item on an apartment community, and that raises the value of that, but it also raises the value of every single apartment you do for the rest of your life, right? It can literally be anything. It might seem really small when you hear it, but then you're like, oh wow, when you start doing it. The cost segregation thing is a perfect example of that. When I heard it, it was almost like a throw off line that, someone was saying from the stage about how, you could use this. And I'm like, I got to learn about that. And I dug in, I started meeting people, I got so into that stuff that I started repping for a company to help other people learn about it. I'm like, I got to teach people about cost segregation because it's amazing. I mean, it's just it's crazy. Right. And for people that don't know, just in case there's anyone listening, I've mentioned it 6 times now. It's just separating the cost of the various elements of your real estate and accelerating the depreciation on some of them. So Like cabinets don't depreciate like real estate over 27 and a half years. They depreciate over 5 years or 7 years, whatever it is. It's about just having somebody come in and tell you, hey, you know what? You can write this off the first year instead of, year 27.
Right.
And that makes a huge difference in the short term, which of course allows you to have more capital to deploy on more deals, and it's just accelerates the whole process.
Right. And you heard Jeff earlier say that he's eliminated his federal income tax that he has to pay.
Completely. Yeah. Since 2017, I've paid $0 of federal income tax. In fact, we get an income tax refund because my wife pays in, and I'm actually even able to shelter her income.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. I mean, and it won't happen forever. I mean, these aren't strategies that last forever, right? Right now, this is the way it works. And I'm a big proponent in Tom Wheelwright, the Rich Dad advisor, always says that, the most patriotic thing you can do is not pay tax. And people at first, it's like, well, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Like taxes are how the country survives or whatever. But the reality is the tax code's about encouraging certain behaviors and discouraging other behaviors. So if you go do the things they want you to do, like invest in multifamily, government has created a system where they're trying to encourage us to do that. So go do that. And if you do the things they want you to do, have families, you get to write off, your child tax credits and stuff like that. They're encouraging, the development of stable families. These are sensible governmental policies that exist for a reason. And if you follow them, you save money on taxes, right? I mean, I'm not saying cheat on your taxes. That's an entirely different problem, right? But if you can legally avoid taxes, that's what you should be doing. I'm a big proponent of that. That's what we all should try to do, is just minimize our tax burden to the extent we can legally.
Yeah. It's an interesting point because, like you said, the IRS and legislature has set things up to incentivize good behavior, right? What they see as economy building, quality of life building, humanity.
That's why you can write off your mortgage interest on your house. I mean, there's no business reason why you should be able to write off mortgage interest on your house, but they're like, hey, we want to encourage people to own houses. We think it's good for society.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it is good for society. I mean, it supports the economy. It allows people to build real wealth over time. Real estate's an incredible wealth builder. Even when it's your personal home, it can be an incredible wealth builder because over time, the money that you would have spent on rent is accumulating in equity. You got to be a little careful. Not everyone needs to own a house. If you're going to live there for 6 days, it's not a good investment, right? But if you're going to live there for 20, 30 years, you should probably buy your house.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I'm renting now. I sold my house, right? So I'm a big fan of renting too. I think it's really good. I actually, it's ironically, even though I own hundreds of apartment units now, rent a condo in Puerto Rico and I rent an apartment in Tennessee, and I go back and forth between them.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's start there. I think that you're a fascinating guy. I think Jamil calls you the most interesting man in the world, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he has been calling me that, which is awesome because that's kind of what I want to be, right? It's one of my core beliefs is that I should do interesting things. Yeah,
and you do. So you walk your talk. What were you doing before real estate? I'm curious, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I was immediately before real estate, I was doing transportation services for a small family-owned company, but my training is actually in law. So I'm a lawyer. I was a bankruptcy attorney for almost just under 5 years, and I actually was diagnosed with leukemia in 2008. It pushed me into personal bankruptcy. So I was just too early in my legal career and had no foundation. And this is what I was saying earlier about waiting too long to start investing in real estate. If I'd started investing in real estate in the late 90s when I thought about it, I would have had the income to support myself when I couldn't work.
Yeah.
So I got forced into personal bankruptcy 2010. And then I thought, well, I have no credit and no money. I should probably be a real estate investor. So that was literally my strategy. And of course, there was 2010, everyone was panicking. And I was like, well, I'm either going to live or die. I might die. I might as well take some risk here. And so I just started trying to hustle deals together. And the first deal I bought was a $30,000 condo that I bought with a friend of mine for cash because I didn't have any. I saved up my bonuses from my new job. I took a corporate job after that for a little while. Got some bonuses, saved up $15,000. We split this condo, and it was a bank-owned foreclosure. The mortgage on it. This is 2011, and the market was crazy. The mortgage on it had been over $100,000, and they were selling it as for $30,000.
Wow.
We still own it now. It's probably worth close to 200.
Wow.
It's a beautiful condo. We actually ended up buying another one in the same building, and I'm a big fan of buy the stuff and wait, because the longer you own it, the better it seems to do. And I mean, we may go into a toppy period here, or even a downturn, but we can survive downturns if you have cash flow. So as long as I have healthy cash flow, I just don't worry about it that much. I'm just keep buying things that cash flow. Just keep doing it.
Right. And I mean, simplified, that is a strategy that just over the course of history is always proven to pay off. If you can buy real estate and wait, man, that's really where it's at.
The thing is, it's so crazy. Like, people say to me, "Oh, I don't want to deal with real estate, toilets or whatever." And that's fine if they don't. But like, the strategy could be literally as simple as, I live, at 123 Main Street. My neighbor's house at 124 Main Street is going for sale, and I know that if I buy it and rent it out, I'll break even.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I go buy it and I rent it out and I break even for 30 years, and then I retire, and now I have 2 paid off houses instead of 1. And it didn't cost me hardly anything, right? And even if that house is $200,000 when I buy it, and some weird fluke in the world happens and it's only worth $150,000 30 years from now, which, I mean, I can't imagine how that would happen.
It's never happened,
right?
Yeah.
If I only put, $20,000 down on it or whatever when I bought it, it doesn't matter that it's only worth $150,000. I broke even for 30 years. I put $20,000 in, I'm getting $150 back. Right. I mean, it's just literally that simple. And that's assuming that it went down in value and not up, that the rents didn't go up, because that's another thing. If you broke even when you bought it, probably 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, the rents are going to be higher, and you're not going to be breaking even anymore because you're going to have a fixed payment.
Right. And so, like, a lot of people are wondering, I'm sure you get this conversation all the time right now, Jeff, is like, what are you doing right now in this quote unquote downturn or inflationary environment? And our answer is really simple. Like, we're buying cash flowing properties that pay the debt service, pay the expenses, pay our investors, and we're buying them on fixed rate debt so that we can.
No balloon payments, no adjustable rates.
Right.
I'm not doing bridge loans or anything. Listen, I've got literally, as we're recording this, my partners are signing to close on an apartment. Like, right now, we're still buying. We're closing today. It's supposed to close at 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, which is right now.
Right now, yeah.
As we record this.
Yeah.
And I signed the docs last week because I was going to go to Puerto Rico, and that's when you live the life I do. Because you alluded to it earlier, I do a lot of interesting things. It's bouncing back and forth is like a minor part of it, right? But when you live the life I do, you have to get really comfortable with good partners and giving powers of attorney to people to sign on your behalf and stuff like that. And, but it works, right? I mean, it really does. And sometimes you got to be there. I mean, there are times where, guarantees or something have to be signed personally, and there's no other way around it. But other than that, my life is very flexible. Real estate has afforded me a lifestyle that, like I said, I went to, 5 continents this year, right? I mean, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's a new record for me. And what makes me want to go to Asia and Australia this year, just so I can be like, I went to all 7 continents in 1 calendar year,
Heck yeah, man.
And the thing is, I'm going to Australia next summer, so it feels a bit premature to jump over to Australia this year just to say I did it. But it's tempting. It's
you could write a pretty cool little book about that. All 7 continents in a year.
I actually have a book coming out already, so I have to focus on one book at a time. My book that's coming out is called No Bad Days: How to Make Every Day Great. Because that's the thing. If people go and Google me, they're going to find that I talk about real estate a lot. I've been on a lot of big podcasts. I've been on, obviously on your show now, and that's cool. But my real passion is helping people live well. And part of that for me is giving up bad days. I haven't had a bad day since I was 17. That includes when I went bankrupt, when I got diagnosed with leukemia, when my dog died. I mean, those weren't fun things to go through, but I didn't want to ruin my day, because the thing is, good and bad stuff happens to everybody every day. And actually, I think it was Jamil that told me this, and it clarified how this process worked for me in a way. He said, right now, somewhere in the world, someone's having the very best day of their life. And somewhere else in the world, someone's having the very worst day of their life, right? And the truth is, the day is neither good nor bad. It's just how that person perceives the day that determines, if it's good or bad for them. And that actually resonated really well with me, because that's how I thought about it for a long time. Because when I got diagnosed with leukemia, and I literally thought I was going to die. I had really high white blood cell counts, like off the charts, like 250,000, supposed to be like 10,000. And people were coming into the hospital the night I was diagnosed and saying, "Oh, I bet today's a bad day." Like they almost wanted to prove to me that it wasn't possible to not have bad days, because I was already like 13 years and no bad days at that point, and telling people I don't have bad days. And I was just kind of like, well, I don't know. I was diagnosed in the evening. Most of the day was pretty good, right? Like I'm not gonna let this maybe it was an annoying couple hours here, but it wasn't that bad, And then the next day I was like, man, today's gonna be a little hard, right? Because now I'm, I really like the mindset at the time was what the doctors were telling me, what I was hearing from people was, if I was lucky, I'd make it till the end of the year. This is in September. I'm like, I want to live to Christmas. That was the goal.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I made it past Christmas. Like my dad said to me then, he said, if you live till February, right, in September, if you live till February, we can go to Australia. Like he's trying to incentivize me to live a couple extra months, right? Like that's how crazy the world was. Turned out, I was really fortunate. The type of leukemia I had a new treatment out that I was able to get on, and it was good, and I actually attribute the positivity to helping with that, because if I had just given up and rolled off into a corner, I would have died. But instead, I was like, I need to find the best doctors. I need to find the best treatment protocols, because I'm not going to let, another part of the core belief for not having bad days is taking responsibility. So it wasn't my fault that I had leukemia. It was my responsibility to deal with it, right?
Take care of it.
Radical responsibility. I've got to be the one. No one is going to fight for you as much as you're going to fight for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I have to deal with this. I have to figure it out. I remember talking to my doctor and saying, "Listen, doc, if you were me in my exact situation and you had my exact condition, what doctor would you talk to?" And he goes, "Oh, well, there's some good ones at the university." I'm like, no. What one would you actually go to? And he's like, "Well, if I could choose any, I would go see this doctor, because she invented this treatment protocol." And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to go see her." And he's like, "Well, I don't know that she's taking patients, and insurance might not pay." I'm like, "I don't care. I'm going to figure it out." Right. And the reason I was able to do that is because I was still in a positive mindset. I was able to look at the future and say, whatever life I have left, I'm going to live, and I'm going to live it as well as I can.
Yeah.
And to circle back to that next second day, just really quick, that was harder than the day I got diagnosed, right? But it was the same kind of stuff again. It was I remember there was a shift change at I think it was maybe 2 p.m. This nurse comes into the room and she says, "Oh my God, Jeff, I'm so sorry to see you here." And I go, "Oh my God, Shelly, I'm so happy I'm here." And she probably thought I was insane, right? But this was a childhood babysitter of mine. And so I was just so excited to see her, somebody I hadn't seen in a decade. I was just like, this is great. I'm where I need to be right now. And on one hand, leukemia might be more serious than the positiveness of seeing your childhood babysitter, but it didn't feel that way to me at the time. And that's the thing that matters, right?
Yeah,
I felt positive. I've trained my brain over years to be positive. And so that's kind of what the book's about, really. It's about the most interesting man in the world, as Jamil says, learning life lessons framed around, no matter what happens, we're not going to have bad days. We're going to stay positive. We're going to make those things. So
I love it.
Yeah, it doesn't come out till April, but it is available for pre-order, so people can find it if they look for it. No Bad Days is the name.
No Bad Days by Jeff Holst, Holst, for those of you listening.
Yeah, it's actually Jeffrey on the book. So
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey. No, it's fine. I go by both, so it doesn't bother me, but you have to pick one for the book title, right?
Yeah.
Who's the author? So I picked the full one for that. So Jeffrey Holst, No Bad Days, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you buy books.
Perfect. And I love that, because for you and largely for me too, the multifamily thing, the apartment aspect of the Apartment Gurus is the vehicle, right? It's something we love to do. It's a game we love to play, but it's also a vehicle for the larger life, living a life that you love to live, living a life that lights you up every day, that you wake up and you're excited to be alive. And for you to have developed this muscle around positivity, and in the bleakest of conditions, in the kind of the darkest of times, to be able to draw on that and really like accentuate that and have something like your childhood babysitter walk into the room, make all the difference in the way that you feel. That is more powerful than leukemia, really, at the end of the day, in my opinion. And I'm not a doctor, but like, my hunch is that energy that you guys shared and that connection that you shared and that love that you shared is like, that is the most powerful force in the universe, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that it cured me, right? But it kept me alive. That's the thing,
sure.
Right? Because it let me stay positive and let me focus. And, the thing is, in a hypothetical world where that babysitter didn't walk in that day, something else would have happened. Because the thing is, you train your brain. It's like there's actual science behind this. It's called the Bader-Meinhof effect. But the basic idea is like when you get a new car, all of a sudden it seems like everyone has a car. Like right. I started thinking I wanted to buy a Tesla, and I started seeing them everywhere. Right? Like, I never see a Tesla, and then they're everywhere. Now you might say, okay, well, Tesla's new or whatever, but the same thing could happen with a Honda Civic. If I bought a Honda Civic today, I'm confident I'm going to see Honda Civics everywhere from now on, because your mind just recognizes and defaults to things that are familiar. And so for me, at that point, 13 years now over a quarter century of no bad days, my mind's always looking for positive. That's the thing that's familiar to me. And when something bad happens, I just deal with it. And I focus on the positive elements. I mean, I interviewed a guy on Last Life Ever once whose son died in Afghanistan. And he said it was dark, rough, right? It was a bad period for him. But then he has this really positive outlook on it now, years later. And I asked him, I said, how did you get to where you're leaning into this? Like, it's really a good thing that my son died. Because that's a radical statement, right? He said, listen, it's not that I'm happy about it. Obviously, I would have preferred it not to happen. But I just got to a place where I was like, I have to find 3 positive things that came out of my son's death. And so he starts this charity to help vets recover from post-traumatic stress disorder. And he writes a book. I mean, just all this really positive stuff that came out of it. And by doing that, he healed himself. And I thought to myself, that's actually almost better than what I do. But, don't tell him I said that, because we don't want him to know. But ever since then, whenever something challenging happens, my brain automatically defaults to the positive stuff. And then I go, okay, I got to check off 3 really good things from this right now. So I got melanoma a year and a half ago. And I was like, oh man, 2 cancers. This can't be good. Like once you have one cancer, you hear people beating them, but when they get another cancer, they're usually dead. So immediately my brain's going, oh, this is really bad, right? Melanoma is the worst skin cancer. I'm in trouble. And then I went, the very next thought was, this is going to be a great story on a podcast someday when I talk about how I had melanoma. So thank you for that. I knew it would eventually come up. Maybe I just brought it up just for that. But the point is, you start thinking about that, and then it's well, okay, what 3 positive things came from that? Well, you know what? Melanoma accelerated my move to the Caribbean, much like Jamil did. I got diagnosed with melanoma. I went to Puerto Rico 3 days later, literally, because I had a trip planned. I had surgery the day I got back from Puerto Rico to remove it. So I sat here in the sun with 1,000 gallons of sunblock on, so I wouldn't get sunburned and my dermatologist wouldn't yell at me, and thought about, why am I not living in Puerto Rico? Why am I not here? And it didn't have to be Puerto Rico, but that just happened to be where I was going the next day, right? And I came back and I told Jamil, I said, Jamil, I want to start working out a plan to move to the Caribbean in the next 5 years. And he was like, well, why don't we do it this year? That's the power of coaches.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times it's just that guy that's in your corner that just makes that suggestion, right? And it just pivots your belief enough that you can do something. Like just having somebody that knows you well and loves you, wants you to be happy and successful, say, hey, why don't we do this? It suggests this possibility of what you can do, what's possible for you. That sometimes that's all it takes. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So anyway, full circle on all that stuff, but take responsibility for yourself, and go find people that can help you and give you clarity. Cause like you said, the outside perspective matters too, right? Sometimes you have limiting beliefs and you don't even realize they're limiting beliefs. And it can be really easy to break through limiting beliefs sometimes. Some of them are really hard, right? If you really don't believe you're good enough to do something, that's really a difficult thing to work through. But sometimes you're just it's going to take me 10 years to save up enough money to buy a house in the Caribbean. and you just believe that. And if someone's like, well, wait, why would it take you 10 years? Like, what if you sold this house, or what if you rented instead of bought, something really simple. And you're like, whoa, I just never thought of that. Right.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what happened. It was like, okay, well, all right, if I was going to try to figure out how to do this in a year, how would I do it in a year? I mean, Kiyosaki says that all the time, right? Like, don't say I can't do it. Say, how can I do it? Right. That little shift in mindset really matters.
Yeah. Fully. Back to self-responsibility for just a second. It occurs to me that you finding the 3 best things that could come out of melanoma, that's like ultimate self-responsibility right there, because you're saying, I've got melanoma. That's what's so right now. And that I can't change that. But the story that I have in my head about it is 100% my responsibility. And that story in my head is really reality. Like that there's something magical about the words that you use, both internally and externally, create your reality and create the context, which can be very disempowering or can be very empowering for you. And that's responsibility right there. Just that choice of what story you're going to have about something, whether it's positive or negative. And Jeff, you're an embodiment of that. And thanks for doing all the work you've done and for sharing it with us, man.
Well, awesome. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed being on the show. So
yeah. No, this has been great. So just real quick on a real estate note, and then we'll wrap things up.
Sure.
What are you doing now as far as the commercial real estate venture goes?
Well, I mean, we had a plan last year to refinance stuff to the extent we could, because we thought rates were going up. I think that was right. Obviously, in retrospect, we were right about that. So we had refinanced a bunch of stuff, and we had a bunch of cash, on the sidelines. So we're still being opportunistic about buying stuff. If it makes sense, we buy it. I believe rates will come back down. I think they've already peaked. I mean, most people don't think that, but I really do think rates have peaked where we sit now in the end of August 2022. So I believe, I'm still putting long-term debt in place in case I'm wrong. If it works now at 5.5%, it's going to work even better if I can refinance it next year at 3% or 3.5%, right? So, we're buying stuff that cash flows. I mean, we haven't really changed our strategy that much. Deals are a little bit harder to find, but we bought so much stuff in the last 2 years, and some of it, syndicated, but some of it just on our own account, and that we don't really need to buy anything. So I'm not freaking out about that. If I find a deal like the one I'm closing, that probably closed since we mentioned it 20 minutes ago, like that deal, it's a small deal, but it's 10 units, cash flows really well. It's got upside. We have a plan to renovate it and refinance it hopefully in the future. But if we can't refinance it, it's fine, because we have long-term debt. We'll just have more equity then.
Yeah.
And it cash flows already, and it's going to cash flow really, really well. 6 months from now when we've gone in and fixed up a few units and raised the rents and stuff like that. So
where are you? Where are you looking? Like what, both in terms of market and in terms of like asset size?
Yeah, I mean, so I definitely want to stay in the commercial realm, right? So 10 units is like really small for us, but we've always been in the like 20 to 50 units range, because we think there's less competition there. And in particular in markets where we have a tactical advantage. So I don't want to buy a 20 unit building in Dayton, Ohio. I have nothing against Dayton, Ohio. I just don't have anything going for me in Dayton, Ohio. Right. But I do have, a couple hundred units in Chattanooga. So if it's, within 20, 30 miles of Chattanooga, and it's a 20 unit building, I have operational scale to where I can easily manage that deal. So like this 10 unit is in Chattanooga. So it's easy for me. That's why I'm buying it. Right. I wouldn't buy a 10 unit in Las Vegas, even if I thought it was the greatest deal in the world, because I don't have the resources to easily manage a 10 unit in Las Vegas. Other people do. They have an operational advantage there I don't have. Brandon Turner used to say this all the time on the Bigger Pockets podcast, right? He would say, find your unfair advantage and lean into that. Maybe you have a rich uncle, then, use your rich uncle's money. But if you don't have to have that, your unfair advantage can be you happen to grow up in a really good market, and or you live in a really good market. So from a market perspective, I grew up in Michigan. I buy in Michigan. I live in Tennessee. I buy in Tennessee. I'm looking in Puerto Rico now because I'm starting to learn about this market, going to real estate meetups, joining the local real estate association, and I see a lot of opportunity here. But I don't just buy wherever. I buy in places that I have an operational advantage. I'm either there or I have deep resources there, already have good property managers there. And that's for us. If you're buying a 100-unit building, that's enough scale, I think, 100, 150 units, where you don't have to have resources there already. Because you have other resources, you have operational knowledge about how to remotely manage assets. You're better at hiring property managers than I am. I'm terrible at hiring property managers because I haven't hired a property manager in a decade. I have one in Tennessee that I partner with. I have one in Michigan that I partnered with. I didn't hire either of them. They're my partners, for crying out loud, right? I don't even know. I wouldn't even have a first clue how to hire a property manager. I'd figure it out, I think. But I really believe you just got to get an advantage versus the market, because market returns are. It's just really short because I know we're short on time. But like your return on any investment is a combination of the risk-free rate of return, whatever that is, like the risk-free rate of return, and a risk premium. This is classic economic theory. So the risk premium is dictated by the market. The riskier an investment is, the higher the return has to be in order for people to be interested in investing in that deal. So riskier investments on average pay a higher return. But it's on average, right? So really risky investments where it's 50% chance it goes out of business, it's got to pay a really good return because there's a 50% chance you're getting nothing.
Right.
So my feeling is if you can figure out a way to mitigate your own personal risk, you get compensated for market risk that you're not personally taking. So my perfect example is I don't very often buy duplexes, but there's one street where if a duplex comes up, I always buy it because I've had 10 duplexes on that street. There's 30 on the street, right? Well, I have an operational scale on that street that no one else has. I also have knowledge about the value of things on that street that no one else has. I know what the rents are going to be. I probably can move one of my tenants from one to the, to the next, right? So I have an advantage over the rest of the world on that street. So I am taking less risk than someone else is to buy on that street.
That's right. Yeah.
Because I have this knowledge that they don't have. And so I've mitigated risk on that street. And as a result of that, I'm able to get rewarded with a higher return than what I'm actually taking risk for.
Yeah.
And so if you can get that asymmetrical risk return relationship on any deal, anywhere, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well, Jeff, I feel like we could talk about a number of these things for a long time. And unfortunately, we are running out of time here. If somebody wants to reach out to you for one-on-one coaching, that is something that you offer in the multifamily space, what's the best way for people to reach you?
I'm Jeffrey Holst everywhere. So Facebook, Instagram. It's just at Jeffrey Holst on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So JEFFREYHOLST. It's also my website, jeffreyholst.com. Literally I'm not trying to hide, right? So if people want to find me, that's how they find me.
Okay. And then No Bad Days coming out in April, your book.
Yep.
Super
The book's
exciting.
coming out in April. It's I'm so excited about that. That's been a long process for me, and getting an actual publisher and not having to do it myself. Cause I was ready. I wrote it. I'm going to publish it one way or the other, but getting a New York publishing house to pick it up is amazing. And I'm super excited about it.
Yeah. Congratulations. Well, Jeff, it's great to be buds with you long distance and be able to collaborate and get our heads together. And this has been a fantastic conversation. Really appreciate everything you brought to the listeners and to me. And, wish you just continued success and continued most interesting man in the worldness that you embody. So thanks a ton, man. I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Yeah, it sure was. So listeners, thank you. Hopefully you enjoyed this as much as we did. And we're doing 2 of these a week now. So we'll see you here in a few days with the next episode of the Apartment Gurus. Take care, everybody.
This has been the Apartment Gurus with Tate Siemer. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. To contact Tate, go to www.investwithgreenlight.com for access to his investor portal and Calendly link. He loves to hear from you and thanks you for being a valued listener. Just a reminder that you are the guru. See you on the next episode of The Apartment Gurus.